Hello and welcome to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. This is a webinar and I'm excited to be here. My name is Juanita and I will be your instructor for this session. How is everyone doing today? Wonderful. Well, with any session, as I'm sure you've heard before, if you have a cell phone, could you please turn it off or turn it to vibrate so that you won't distract anyone that's sitting near you. Our session today will be taught, first of all, from the junior high self-control unit, and the lesson will be self-control begins with you. This is an important character education lesson, so I'd like to start with just a small part of the introduction. We begin this unit realizing that in society, we have done very little to conscientiously teach our children how to develop a positive moral character. The urgent need to incorporate formal character education in the school curriculum has become paramount. As many of you have heard, there have been violence that has been on the increase in schools. We've had Columbine, for example, with over 15 students that were shot. There are other situations with school as well. Even though we're using the junior high unit, it's important to realize that self-control begins with us individually, as adults, as each one of you, whether you're a wife, a teacher, just a neighbor, someone working in an office environment or any environment that you find yourself. These same moral characters and principles can be used at anywhere. So this same material can be taught to an infant. It can be taught to a primary school child, as well as a junior high, into the high school, and into our daily work, walk, and community, as well as worldwide environment. So since we see an increased amount of violence and aggression in our schools and catastrophes throughout the world, we have to assume that children don't naturally acquire this as a character trait. Self-control, while we need it every single day in every single thing that we do, is so important that it starts even as a child. I'd like everyone to stand to your feet for a moment. Do a quick survey. If you are a parent, you may sit down. If you're not, remain standing. If you've ever taught a child, it doesn't have to be yours, whether it's in a school environment, whether it's in your neighborhood, speaking out to a child that you have influence over, you may sit down. If you've ever witnessed a child in an activity, you may sit down. I think that covers everybody. My point is, how many of us have ever witnessed, taught, or just experienced hearing a child that has had a tantrum of some sort? Not a very pleasant experience. What occurs when we witness that? Apparently that child was told, no. Can I do this? No, not right now. Can I buy this? No, not right now. Can I do this, say this, go here or there? Not right now. And at that moment, something begins to bubble up, from probably the toes right up through the mouth when something blurts out. Depending on that particular child, you will see evidence that they do not appreciate, nor agree with, nor accept what was just taught to them. Now, we laugh about that because we've seen it or we've heard it in a child. Now, I'll ask you another question. How many of you have witnessed a teenager when they've been told they can't do, see, say, go, wherever a particular place? Now, have you witnessed a tantrum? Of course. Maybe on a different level. Maybe a door slams. Or maybe stomping occurs. Or maybe just an eye roll. There are physical things that we can see to witness. I don't appreciate or accept that particular behavior. Now, let's get a little more personal on an adult level. How many of us, this time you don't have to raise your hand, have found ourselves when we heard, no, you can't, you'll have to wait, I really want that, but And what do we do? Do we roll our eyes? Do we close that cabinet in the kitchen a little bit harder? Do we have those individual desires and urges to have that little personal tantrum? It's oftentimes known as passive aggressive. Oh, I know they want me to get there, but I'll just go a little bit slower. So we all have things that we yet continue to work on, to strive and develop, and that's the beauty of character education. Sometimes we find it amusing and we chuckle when we say, well, okay, what harm will that do? Today we're going to talk about the purpose of self-control. What is it? Why is it so important to develop it? And even talk about controlling our thoughts and how our thoughts play an important part in practicing self-control. Now, we talked about initially when I picked up from the very intro that self-control has, in the society, gone out of control. And even though it may appear initially to be a small slam, a small stomping of the feet, or a thought, each one of those behaviors kept out of control leads to something else. And if I was to ask you to think about in society, what have you heard? What have you seen? Whether it's on the radio, whether it may be in a newspaper, or evident in the news broadcasts. It's almost difficult to watch it anymore. In the first 5 minutes, what do we hear that's evidence because someone has acted out of control? I see a hand in the back.
I think the shooting in Colorado at the movie theater, because he didn't pass his grades and everything else, and he actually got dropped out of school, then he just went into some kind of depression or something because he didn't have that self-control and went out and did that.
Yes, the shooting in the movie theater. There's an individual who had some situation in their life that caused some sort of stress, and instead of finding a healthy way to divert the stress, to talk about the stress, he then chose to act upon the stress and attack people that had nothing to do with it. So it causes very stressful and even deadly consequences. Someone else quickly. So we have shootings in the news, not just in the schools. What other things are evidenced? Yes?
Well, I think when you don't have self-control, I think that's also what causes the bullying.
Yes. Bullying.
Because you don't control yourself to not say something mean or to not act out and be mean to someone else.
Exactly. Bullying, and that's a big thing in our schools. Yes?
Also, one of the number one problems in America is obesity, which is about self-control.
That's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up. Oftentimes when we think of self-control, we think about how our actions impact us. We also heard about how our actions impact other people through crime, through bullying, through abuse. And we always think of it in terms of something external. But when you mentioned obesity, and I can add to that drug abuse or alcoholism, those things are also lack of self-control or lack, and all of these characters stack on top or weave into each other. They all overlap. And so when you have a lack of self-control in that particular area where you're doing something that destroys yourself, then it also means that there are some other characteristics that are also involved. So maybe I don't feel very worthy. So I may not have self-respect. And because I don't respect myself, I might harm myself. And that can come in a variety of ways. So if I don't respect myself, I can harm myself, or I can harm someone else. Great points. Yes?
Well, credit card debt. Because, we want it. So we buy it on credit. And we may not have the money to pay for it.
Credit card debt. What does that mean? Almost back to that child. We want it tomorrow. We want it. You can say it out loud. Now. I want it now. Give it to me now. That same kind of a tantrum, right? So we'll just charge it. And without self-control, what do? We charge it again. And before you know it, we're loaded with debt. And then Other issues start, and that's another form of that self, where you harm yourself and those that are around you. So that's another excellent point. I saw a hand, yes.
Self-control and driving, too. Yeah, rage,
Road rage. Yes, self-control in driving. And again, that deals with another, we'll talk about that short in the lesson, that deals with another character trait. Are we being responsible? Did we get up early enough to get where we need to go? Oh, I'm late. Now I've got to get there. Everybody else get out of my way because I'm coming through. And when you don't respect the speed limit and you're not using self-control, what could that lead to? An accident, which now involves other people who had nothing to do with the lack of responsibility or self-respect to get where we needed to be on time. Everything overlaps and ripples as a domino effect. So as we mentioned in the purpose of today's lesson, what is it? We'll talk about what is self-control, why is it important, and then controlling your thoughts is an important part to practicing self-control. And you all are already priming the pump and understanding why it's important to have self-control. Now, we also mentioned with road rage and other things and wanting it now. We live in a society that is very fast-paced. The now generation. Everything is instant. Instant microwave, you get your instant popcorn. You get your instant dinner, just throw it in there and zap it a few minutes and out it pops. I don't know what it becomes, but out it pops. Same thing with other technologies. What are some other instant technologies we have?
cell phone.
The cell phone.
Actually talk face to face in real time from around the world rather than, what we saw on TV where you had to call and get an operator for her to plug it in and call your party. Now it's real time face to face. Real time face to face with the telephone. Yes? ATM. Again, instant money. I remember one day I was driving in the car and my son, he had to be about 3 years old. He said, "Mom, I want to go and get this particular toy." And I said, "Well, son, not right now. I don't have any money for that right now." "Well, yes, you do, Mom. Just go to the wall. Just go to the wall." And I didn't understand what he meant. It's like, what do you mean go to the wall? And then I thought, he seen me walk up to the wall, punch a few buttons, and out popped some money. So he said, "Just go to the wall, Mom." So he didn't understand you have to first put it in the wall before it comes out of the wall. But yes, instant with the ATM machine, with television, with radio, with movies. I saw your hand.
Online shopping.
Oh, you don't even have to get dressed. Just go up to that computer. It's almost like coming out of the wall. So we have all these instant ways that we can be inundated with character education. Imagine our children sitting in front of that boob tube, that television, or that internet with the press of a button. And I hear you can put an innocent word in to do an innocent investigation of a topic, and some not very innocent things can pop out. So even in the media, the television, the internet, the radio, the news, as much as we talk about moral character education, those qualities and concepts that are universal, for everyone we talk about, there are at least 8 to 10 more negative influences that are out there that are constantly bombarding not only our children but ourselves. You can't halfway look at the news today without the commercial hitting you with something. So if we have to be on guard, how much more should we be on guard, not only for ourselves, but for our children? So not to take us down to a gloom and doom level, because that's not what this whole process is about. It's to give us some solutions, the peaceful solution. And so recognizing that all of this is out here for us, it's important that we make a diligent, concerted effort every single day, moment by moment, activity by activity, to look with honesty as well as self-control and respect to make these an integral part of everyday part of every aspect of what we do for our children as well as ourselves. Because as we talk about that instant media, our children, our community, our workplace is watching us every single day. And so if I'm in line at the grocery store or I'm in line in the cafeteria waiting to go sit down and have my lunch, and I'm just a little irritated, and I don't appreciate having to wait, and I start to manifest some of those outward actions, and someone behind me says, wait a minute, isn't that Juanita? Didn't she just teach that class? Didn't she just say we were supposed to use self-control? You never know who's watching. But our children are always watching and always listening. And they're quick to say, wait a minute, aren't we supposed to be? Yes, we are. Thank you for correcting me. And remember to keep it in order. So this unit on self-control was written to assist each one of us in teaching the moral values and characters in a very clear and concise way, and in a way that is easy to understand and identify with. Self-control, as I mentioned, is an essential character in character development, or essential in the everyday character development. And it's so essential that that's probably one of the first lessons we do teach our children. So when a child goes up to a socket, they don't know. Stop, don't touch that, that's hot. You don't want to stand too close to this because you can hurt yourself. We're always giving them barriers and parameters so that we can control their environment in order to do what? Protect them, keep them safe. So when we look at self-control, it's not something that we have to do, but it's something as we develop our character every day. It's something that only we want to do because it protects us and everyone around us and everything around us, our planet, the animals in the planet, our food supply, is all dependent on us just using self-control. And each one of the other character units that are a part of that as well. So as we tell our children these things and they grow and develop, they begin to realize, and it's our goal as parents, as educators, to help them to want to develop and incorporate these things for themselves. Because if someone has to follow behind you like a mother duck gathering her brood, stay over here, come over here, is that self-control? No. The operative word in self-control is controlling yourself. Yes. Let's talk about self-control. I gave 3 people a card. If the first person could stand and tell us the first reason for self-control. Self-control is
controlling what you think, because thoughts lead to feelings. And an example of that would be if you're having a negative thought, it produces negative feelings and emotions, which can produce negative actions. And then you can end up hurting somebody from those thoughts.
Yes. It's easy to have a thought, to take a thought. Sometimes you hear someone say, don't take a thought. So how is that possible? Because every time you hear something, you want to take a thought. Oh, wow, that was a great idea. That took a thought. That was a positive thing to say, oh, that was a great idea. But if someone says something and you don't think it's a great idea, or if they say something with the best intention, but you might have heard it a different way, and you take a thought. And as you said, it might lead to hurting someone. So if my supervisor said, Juanita, please come over here right away, I need you. And I took a thought. I had 2 options of thoughts to take. Coming right away. And you don't delay. I'm needed for some reason. The other thought is, who does she think she is? After all, I'll get there. She always wants something urgently. And I take a negative thought. What might I do? I might slow down. I might not show up at all. Oh, I know, I'll just act like I didn't hear her. And what if at that moment she had something that was falling, and she needed me immediately. Come, Juanita, come here. I need you. And I delay. And what if she became injured? What if something fell? So we need to be careful that it's important to practice self-control and controlling what you think, because thoughts lead to feelings. So in that moment, the feeling I had taken was negative and could be very wrong. Who does she think she is? Why do I have to go now? I'm busy doing something else. All of those are negative thoughts. So we need to guard against that, because doing that is not showing self-control. The second volunteer.
Controlling what you feel, because feelings lead to action. I really do believe that the mind has everything to do with it. If you let something come into your mind, and if you don't immediately get rid of it, then you are in trouble.
Yes.
Somehow.
Thank you. Could you hear what she said? She really believes that when you control, your mind has everything to do with it. This says controlling what you feel, because feeling leads to actions. So if you hold on to a thought comes into your mind. Who does she think she is? And I don't immediately cut that thought off. Whoa, wait a minute. She's my supervisor. She needs me. I'm on my way. As opposed to, well, maybe the last time she called me, she really didn't need anything. And I allow that negative thought to ponder. That will impede my actions or what I ultimately end up doing. Lack of self-control. When you use self-control, you respond according to you stop. Again, we need the acronym. We stop. We think about the option and proceed with the right choice. Yes. Person number 3.
Controlling how you behave, because decisions lead to actions which lead to rewards or consequences. And my situation was similar to yours, where I had someone wanted something done, and it was time for me to go.
Okay.
But instead of being negative and saying, no, I can't do this, I kept my peace, did what they wanted, which resulted in a reward or bonus.
Wonderful. Excellent example. Controlling how we behave, because decisions lead to actions which lead to rewards or consequences. And that was an excellent example, because in her situation she said it was time for her to go. And her supervisor called her, needed her to do something. Even though it was time to go, she stopped. Very briefly. Now, stop doesn't mean ponder for a few minutes. It just means halt the immediate behavior, look at the option, and proceed. So she went to her supervisor, and it led to a reward. So when the positive behavior is acted upon, it often leads to a reward. If it's a negative behavior, it could also lead to a consequence. And as we train our children or students, they need to understand that it's not always about a reward. Sometimes the reward is just simply, thank you. Congratulations. I appreciate that you came promptly. I respect the fact that you showed me respect because of your positive attitude. So rewards don't always mean let's take a trip and spend money or do something big. But it could just be the opportunity to be acknowledged for making a right choice. So as we look at what self-control is, it's controlling or guiding or directing our thoughts, because thoughts lead to feelings. And that's when we start thinking or showing with our face. Sometimes with our feelings, we can sense in our bodies. Are we getting warm? Why am I getting warm? Or I feel the hairs rise on my neck, these things we've heard. Why am I responding this way? And is this the right thing to do? Or do I need to recorrect, refocus, and move forward? And then controlling what we feel, because feelings lead to actions. And then controlling how we behave, those actions, because those actions ultimately lead to reward or consequence. And in the example that you gave, with the crimes and the fear that can go forth, that can lead to jail or long time situations. The acronym that we quickly use for self-control is the STOP acronym. Again, stop, think about my options, and then proceed with the right choice. We build upon several other characteristics as we use the self-control. It takes self-control to be respectful. How many of you have ever had a situation where someone wasn't being very respectful to you? Sure, we all have. Does that give us the right to jump past, stop, and go right at them and get them back? No. The true way to show self-control is even when you're being disrespected, you stop, recognize this person is not having a great day, but this is my opportunity to maintain the level of calmness, to continue politely. I understand that you're upset. Maybe I can come back at another time and diffuse the situation. Because if you retaliate, then they'll have to retaliate, and someone can ultimately get hurt. Responsible. Responsible, you definitely need self-control because, back to the work environment, I need you to stay here and make sure that these 12 books have been edited. Oh, well, the first 4 were okay. I guess it is getting late and I'm a little tired. Is that self-control? You've been given a task. You do it until the task is completed and done to the best of your ability. Because that very next book might be the one that had the problem. And someone has trusted and relied upon you to get the job done. The adverse effect of being irresponsible or disrespectful adds to a lot of lacks of. We can say lack of trust. Can someone think of another one? If you've been given a task and you can't be trusted to complete the task, yes?
If you don't complete it, then you're dishonest in a way.
Yes, dishonest. That leads to stealing. So, yes?
You're not dependable.
Exactly. You're not dependable, so you can't be dependent upon to do what you have to do. Self-control is the foundation for so many other character traits. I see a hand, yes?
You also get disrespect. They will not respect you anymore because you lie to them.
Yes. So then you can develop a negative trait of being a liar. So we want to be careful of the things that we do while we are working on self-control. We are accountable for the decisions that we make. We are accountable for how we behave. And we're also accountable on how we treat others. What do we control in life? Can we control the weather? No. What can we control? Our thoughts? Yes? Ourselves. That's about the bottom line. And you can plan every morning. Today is going to be the best day. I'm going to use my character traits. And then you get up, walk out the door, and whop. I know she didn't just say that, but she must be having a bad day. And I'm going to continue to model self-control. So the real test for self-control is what you do when no one is looking. And to recap what we covered today, self-control is the foundation of a positive character. Moral principles are the foundation of self-control. Again, universal principles and guidelines that everyone can use, and it improves and helps ourselves, our environments, and the world around us. Developing self-control through practice leads to the development of many positive character traits. And self-control must come from within and must be practiced every day. I truly thank you for your participation, for your attention, and this concludes part 1 of the self-control unit. Thank you very much.